Hey, welcome to yet another video from Minnesota Implement on what the heck are we building at Minnesota Implement. This is one of our floating cross draw plows, but this one also has a detachable pusher box on it. So the pusher box rides ahead of the plow as a separate device, and then with these hook locks that are on the top of it, you can disconnect from the pusher box really easy. But I wanted to kind of shoot this video as a how to use the device. On these plows, when you put them on the machine, most of the time you're going to run it with the pin out of that toggle on the top of there, and you'll put it in the middle of its travel. So you'll move your faceplate to a little bit forward with that toggle in the mid of its travel, so it's sitting like that. And then you want your A-frame sitting level to the ground, or as close to level to the ground as you can. That way when you turn the plow, it turns on a straight axis, because if your heel is low or high, then the plow won't be turning on a straight axis, and it could cause a corner to dig in. Now, these floating cross draw plows on a 7-foot wide like this will have 3.5 to 4 inches that it can float side to side or wobble. So if you're going to come up onto the sidewalk here where we've got the taper, the plow will accommodate that as the tractor rocks. So that's why these floating cross draw plows work really well on a utility tractor like this, is because you've got your front walking beam front axle. That means that the machine doesn't always stay on the same straight axis, so you need the plow to wobble as well. But these have a flippable cutting edge on them, so as you wear down your cutting edge, you can unbolt it and flip it. Obviously this is a little awkward with the pusher box being on this one, but I just have a chance to shoot a video, so I figured I would. You've got your greasable pin here, your main pin. That one grease zerk greases all 3 of the bushings on it, so you want to deliberately over grease that. You will get a bit of grease out of your first flange here, where it will kind of pile out of there, and you want to deliberately continue to over grease it in order to make sure you're pushing grease all the way down. When you first get the unit, there will be nothing but air in the hydraulics. So when you first hook your unit up, you want to start the machine and leave the machine at its lowest possible idle, and elevate the plow off of the ground so that it's not dragging on anything. And then just feather your auxiliary control left to right, just a couple inches each way, and you can go a little bit more each time, but at the lowest possible idle so that it doesn't bang. If you spool the machine up to full throttle and then just hit the control and hold it, because of the air in there, it'll build up pressure, and then it'll all of a sudden slam to the end as it overcomes the friction. And that could damage the end stops or damage the cylinder. So when you start it up, you want to leave the machine at the lowest possible idle, and then feather the control left and right, maybe 12, 2 dozen times, just a little bit more each time when you go left to right, until you hear all of the air come out. And it'll be real obvious. The unit will be kind of choppy and bouncy, and then all of a sudden it'll start to smooth out, because there is a set of flow restrictors in there, and as it goes from air to oil over those flow restrictors, its movement will smooth out, and you'll stop hearing the bubbles returning to your tank. Now, you will have to put about a half a gallon or so of oil in your system, especially if you've got jump lines. Now you can see I don't have the lines hooked up on this one because this machine doesn't have front hydraulics, but it does have rear hydraulics. So on this machine, I would just make up a 17-foot set of lines to go from that rear hydraulic under the tractor, up the boom, down the loader frame to these couplers. And now obviously that extra 17 feet, actually 34 feet of line because of the 2 lengths, would take more oil to fill. Your other option on these, if you don't have the auxiliary, if you've got the removable loader frame, you've got the couplers here for your faceplate and for your loader frame. And so you could put your faceplate in this position here in the mid of its travel, and then make up a short set of jump lines, 7-foot lines, to hook to what was your bucket tip, and just unplug your bucket tip and plug that into your auxiliary to run your left to right. And that will work if your cylinders don't leak. If your cylinders have a little bit of a leak, you'll get creep to your faceplate and it could be a nuisance. But if your cylinders are tight, then you could just unplug those lines. The lines will dead stop and you'll be able to plow just fine. What you lose at that point, though, is the ability to tip the faceplate forward. So when you're operating this, if you're back dragging away from a garage door, let's say, and you're trying to take that ice pack away from your garage door and you want some down pressure on it, currently you roll your bucket tip forward against that dead stop down there so you can put weight down on the plow for back dragging. If you're unplugging your bucket tip, you would lose the ability to put down pressure on the plow. But for a lot of people, that's no big deal. If you're mainly using this for plowing the driveway and you're not back dragging, who cares if you lose your bucket tip? So that's your options on how to hook it up. That's kind of care and feeding on the thing. They do come with these adjustable mushroom shoes on all of our plows. If you were going to be plowing on gravel with it before the ground is frozen, that's where those come in handy. You change that spacer and stack of washers so that your cutting edge is about 1 inch or 1.5 inches off the ground. Now, obviously, if you're working in mud, that then is going to leave 2 trails where these shoes ride. So it's not the perfect solution, but it does keep you from rolling an entire snow roll of mud off into the ditch or into your landscaping. So that's about it. Now, with the droppable pusher that we make here, you can check out my other videos on how to connect and disconnect into that. It's a new product we're still developing. This is the first prototype on that, so we'll be waiting for some feedback on how it performs. And obviously we're in May here, so it's going to be a few months before we get much feedback on that. But we're now developing these pushers to go onto our plows, so that will be an option that is available for the heavy duty and super duty plows within reason of size, because obviously we're not going to build a heavy duty 10-foot plow and then hang a pusher box on it, because at a 10-foot heavy duty plow, the plow is already pushing the maximum rating of the structure, whereas this is a 7-foot heavy duty plow. So it's a small, heavy-duty plow. Putting the pusher on it works just fine. And we get into the same thing on the Super Duty family. If you get an 8.5 foot, we can put a pusher box on it. If you get a 12 foot or a 10 foot with wings kind of thing, we're not going to put a pusher box on that. Because we don't want to exceed the structural strength of the faceplate and of the unit. We're trying to build 10 to 20 year units, 10 years for a contractor and 20 years for a homeowner. And if you hang something on it that is going to compromise its strength and structure, that does not make for a good product, which does not make for happy customers. And we're all about our happy customers. Anyways, getting a bit long-winded here at 8.5 minutes long. We're Minnesota Implement. Please check out my other videos. Thank you for watching.